I'm Greg and this is Scott, and we're going to show you how to assemble one of the FORZA GoBikes. For this bike, we would really suggest that you take it to your local bike shop to assemble it because it can be kind of tricky. Okay. Next, we're going to remove all the packaging from the bike. So you're going to want to cut these zip ties. You're going to want to be careful from not trying to cut any of your housing for your brakes, your shifter, or your electrical wires for your bike. You're going to open your parts and toolbox. You're going to find your pedals. You're going to find your mounting brackets for your rear fenders. You're going to find your headset cap, zip ties, your front light, your chain, your toolkit, and your charger that we'll need later. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the tires before we start putting them on the bike so that they have enough air to support the bike. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the valve cap off, then you're going to put this head here with the lever up, and then you're going to push it onto the valve and then push it down to lock it in place, and then you'll start pumping up the tire. So now we're going to assemble the rear side of the bike, which we're going to do is we're going to take off this tape here from the axle. On each side of the axle, you're going to find a pin that needs to remain in place. And what you're going to also do is you're going to remove the washer and the nut from each side of the axle, so that we can put the rear wheels on. On each side of the bike, you're going to find a washer and a spacer. Those need to be all the way to the inside of the axle towards the bearing on the frame. When you install the wheels, you're going to line up the pin with the corresponding opening on the rim with the sight with the silver disc brake mounting spot on the rim. Although on this bike we have the disc brake on the actual axle. So you're going to install each wheel with the tire arrow pointing forward with the rear light on the frame on the back. So to install each wheel, you're going to put the wheel on, and then you're going to use the washer and then the lock nut on each side with the flat side of the nut facing the actual wheel. You're going to spin it on until you can't do anything else by hand, and then you're going to tighten it down with your 19mm wrench all the way until it's tight. So to install the rear part of the frame, what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the nuts and bolts from the rear assembly here. Make sure to keep everything together. Then we're going to take the rear part of the frame and line it up with the mounting spots on the front triangle. So you're going to place this part of the frame here onto the outside of the rear assembly on top of the bottom plate. Then you're going to take your nuts and bolts with one washer remaining on the bolt, and then placing that in your first hole with another washer lined up with the remaining nut. And what you're going to do is you're just going to leave them in to where they're just hand tight for now, and then we'll tighten them up once we get them all installed. So you're going to take your large Allen wrench and then your open end 17mm. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to line up each side of the frame to where everything is aligned so that the rear part of the frame isn't at an angle. So next we're going to assemble the handlebars to the frame. What you're going to do is you're going to take the cone-shaped cap that was in your parts box and put it on top of the frame before you put the stem in. And then you're going to install the stem into the frame with the cables to where they're not twisted. And then you're going to find a rubber plug that's in the top of the stem. You're going to remove that to where you can tighten up the handlebars into the frame. On the side of the stem, you're going to find this dotted line. What that is going to be your minimum insertion length for the quill stem. You're going to want that to where it's hidden inside of the frame. That is going to be the point where if you see that outside of the frame, your stem's too high and you want to lower down your stem. We're going to tighten it down to where it's hand tight for now, and then try to straighten them out as good as possible, and then we'll retighten this once we put the front wheel on and can line up the stem with the front wheel. Then we can readjust the angle once we get the front wheel on to make sure that the stem is straight. Now we're going to install the fender for the front wheel. You're going to remove the nut and bolt that's already installed to your fork. It's also going to be threaded into your fork, so you're going to loosen that up. Then you're going to take your fender with the short side facing forward, and this will be behind the front wheel. You're going to place that one side on the front of the front crown of the fork and one side behind it. Then you're going to take your front light here and you're going to put that in front of the front brace for the fender. Then you're going to take your bolt, you're going to feed that through the light and then the fork, and it's going to thread into your fork brace. You're going to hand tighten it to where everything's in place. Then you can take your 5mm Allen wrench and tighten it up. Then you're going to take the supplied nut and then install that on the back of the fender mount. Okay. Once we have that done, we can install the front wheel. You're going to take the fork brace out of the fork, and then you're going to find a pad spacer inside your front brake that is going to prevent, if you hit your brake on one of these hydraulic brakes, from the pads collapsing together. So once you take the piece out, you do not want to hit your front brake. So when installing your front wheel, you're going to have one washer all the way to the inside that's going to have a lip on it. That's going to line up with the bottom of the fork here to keep the wheel in the right position. And then these washers have a prong on it that are going to sit inside of the fork here. So once you have it lined up, tighten down the nuts by hand to where you can try to line up the other side as well. And then check to make sure the front wheel is centered in the front fork. And what we can do is we can put a little bit of pressure on the top of the bike. And then tighten up each side with your wrench. Okay. Next, we're going to connect the power supply for the motor. We're going to undo the Velcro strap here. Then we're going to connect each of these together. There's going to be an arrow on each one of them. You're going to try to line up to each other. So you'll see an arrow on each one. Then we're going to take the Velcro strap and strap it to where it holds the wire to the fork. Now we're going to install the wire onto the front light. You're going to take the dotted white lined wire, which is going to be the positive one, and install onto the positive one, which is going to be on the left side of the light. There we go. Okay. Now that we have the front wheel installed, we can straighten out the stem to the front wheel. So you're going to loosen it up and then try to align the handlebars and the stem to the front wheel to where it's straight. Okay, and then to check this is tight, what you can do is you can use the front wheel, and if it still rotates, or if the stem rotates, then you want to tighten up the stem further. Now we're going to install the seat post inside the frame. You're going to take the lever that's on the seat post clamp and open it up. Then you're going to install the seat post into the frame. What we're going to do is we're going to tighten up the seat post clamp to where you feel a little bit of resistance when you get to the halfway mark. And you can check to see if the seat post is still turning or not. And then you're going to align the seat to where it's straight with the frame as well. Next, we're going to feed the derailleur cable housing through the frame. So it's going to go through this triangle here. You're going to find a brace for the frame here. So there's going to be a little opening behind the bottom bracket. You're going to feed that through there to where it doesn't get snagged by your cranks. And it's going to line up with each of these zip tie strapping points. So you're going to take your zip ties and zip tie the derailleur cable housing to the frame. So you're going to take your derailleur cable housing, you're going to feed it through the middle of the rear frame assembly here. You're going to feed the wire through your barrel adjuster on your derailleur. Then you're going to take your small open end wrench and you're going to loosen up the cable anchor bolt. So we're going to feed the cable here through this little hole on your derailleur. Then you're going to feed it through your little cable anchor. There's going to be a groove that's going to be onto the derailleur cage side. You're going to place your cable right in between the plate from the derailleur and then the little cable anchor plate that has a groove on it. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to try to line up the derailleur cage here with your hardest gear on your freewheel. So what you're going to do is you're going to tighten up the top screw here with your Phillips wrench until you get it to where it's lined up with that first cog on that freewheel. Then we can take your wrench again and loosen up the cable and tighten up the slack that was in the cable from when we first installed it. Next, we're going to line up this brake adapter with the two holes on the frame. Now they're both threaded in. You're going to tighten down both sides. Next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try to align your brake caliper with the disc rotor. So you can kind of see from both sides or the top if there's space between the pads on one of the pads and there's no space on the other side. So we're going to try to realign it to where there's space on each side of the rotor to the brake pads. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed the chain through the rear derailleur here. You're going to want to leave the side with the pin already pushed out on the other side, and you're going to use this side of the chain to feed through the rear derailleur. You're going to feed with it between the plate here of the derailleur and around the lower pulley. And then you're going to go around the bottom side of the top pulley. Making sure you're on the pulley. There's going to be a plate on the bottom side of the derailleur here that you want the chain to be on top of. So you want it to be all the way around the pulley. And you're going to take it and then you're going to go up around your freewheel here. And you're going to keep feeding the chain through the derailleur. Next, what you want to do is when installing the chain, you want to have this pin where it's on the outside of the bike to where you can push it in easier. What you're going to do is you're going to connect both the sides together. There should be a little bit of resistance to get it to kind of snap in place. And then once you get that together, you're going to use your supply chain tool. You're going to back off the pushing pin to where you can put the chain inside of it. On this side, there's going to be an alignment tool that's going to sit inside of the chain to help you guide the pin in. And we're going to push the pin in. You're going to feel a little bit more pressure once you get to pretty close. And then once you feel a little bit of decrease in pressure, that's where the pin should be almost all the way in to where it's pretty flush with the outer chain link. And you can remove it and check this to make sure it's all the way through. Okay. And sometimes the chain links will be a little bit stiff once you push the pin all the way through. You can kind of wiggle it back and forth to try to get it to loosen up if it is. Then we're going to take the chain and install it around your front chain ring. Okay. Next, we're going to remove the bag from your rear rack assembly so that we can assemble this once we get the rear fenders installed. So you can flip it over, and then we're going to install our fenders. Next, we're going to install the fenders. You're going to find that there's a lip on one end of it, and the other side is going to be normal. So that's going to be the back side of the fender, and the other side will be the front. Then you're going to take your bolt and thread it into the frame. Don't fully tighten it to where you can adjust the fender. Next, you remove the hardware from the rear of the frame, and then you're going to install your rear rack here, or your rear basket, with these at the rear. Then you're going to install your hardware, checking to make sure everything's lined up accordingly with the frame. Next, we're going to install the wires here for the brake light. So what you're going to do is you're going to feed them to where you're going to follow this low beam right here next to your rear disc brake. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple of the zip ties to attach them to the frame. And then same as with the headlight, you're going to use the one with the dotted lines here as your positive. And you're going to look for the positive on your tail lights. Next, we're going to install the pedals onto the cranks. We're going to open up the packaging for the pedals. You're going to find the marking on the outside of the pedal on the end. You're going to find an R and an L. So the R is going to go to on the right side. And you can just start threading the pedal in, just rotating the pedal until you find. You can back pedal and hold on to the pedal to get it to thread in. Okay. Then you're going to take your 15 millimeter and you're going to tighten it down towards tight. Okay. So on the left side, the pedal is going to thread in counterclockwise. So you would turn it left. Okay. You can do the same thing. You can back pedal and finish threading it in. And you can use your 15 millimeter. Okay. Make sure it's tight. So the battery is what we're going to install next. You're either going to find this in a separate box, or you could find it inside of your bike box. The top of the battery is going to be the side with the lever here that is going to allow you to install and uninstall the battery. So the bottom side is going to go in first. You can place that in there, and then you're going to use your lever. Next, we're going to show you how to plug the bike in to charge it. You're going to open up this little rubber cap on this side. And you're going to take the end of your charger and plug it in. And please don't leave your bike plugged in to charge for more than 8 hours. Next, we're going to reinstall the bag here. You're going to find the GoBike logo, and that's going to be on the back of the bag. So that's going to be sitting in the back of the basket.
This is your display for your FORZA and your Forte. To turn your display on, press and hold the M button for 2 seconds. Your display lights up. Here you'll find your battery power, your current odometer, your speed, and your pedal assist. Right now, we see pedal assist in number 1. As you increase those, you'll see that increase to 2, standard, 3, standard, 4, power, and number 5, power. We're going to decrease that back down to 1. You can change your screen brightness by entering the setup mode. To do that, hold the top and down arrow buttons together for 2 seconds. We see PO1. So PO1 right now is set to number 1, which is display level 1. If you hit up button here on the left side, you go to display 2 and display 3. Display 3 will be your maximum brightness. If you like display 3, we can press the top and down buttons together. We're now in the brightest display. Your bike display might come defaulted as kilometers per hour. If it does, there's a simple fix for that. Press and hold the up and down buttons together for 2 seconds until you get to the programming mode. Hit the M button once to hit enter to PO2. You'll see here set at kilometers per hour. Press up 1 time. Now we're defaulted to miles per hour. Press and hold the top and bottom buttons together for 2 seconds. You're out of programming mode, and now we're defaulted to miles per hour. This red button is your throttle kill switch. Right now our throttle is engaged, as you can plainly see here. If we press the button 1 time, you'll hear a click. By doing that, you now disengage your throttle